Coming to you from the Stream.TV studios in Hollywood, California, Pensado's Place is brought to you by Vintage King, Avid, Recording Connection, and the Blackbird Academy.
You're going to meet one of the youngest Pensado fans ever. We've got a brand new ITL. We've got information about the Pensado Awards. We actually had dinner last night at where it is. It is very cool.
Oh,
Isn't it cool?
Yeah.
Let me tell you. And you're going to meet a cat whose frequency of hits you're going to start to really understand. You're at the place, baby. It's Pensado's Place.
Yay. Thanks for joining us, guys. It's got a jam-packed show for you today. A lot of cool things going on. I've been having a lot of fun this week. You've been working really hard this week.
Yeah, we have. We got a lot going on. It's cool, though. The other very cool thing, one of the artists that you've mixed and appeared with us at NAMM, isn't she going to be on Arsenio Hall?
Yeah, Macy Gray is scheduled to be on Arsenio March 11th, this coming Tuesday. She's going to do a song called Stone. Love the mix. Love Macy. I'm just pulling for her.
And who did the mix, by the way?
Oh, I did the mix.
So Tuesday, March 11th on Arsenio Hall.
My good buddy Z did the production. I think it's a special song.
Oh, cool.
I just stood back and it mixed itself.
Well, she for sure is a special artist.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Shall we get to the matters at hand?
We have to. We have no options.
Well, hey, everybody, back in the saddle for another week in sound. Great to see you and hope everyone is doing really well out there. Our man Will Thompson broke out the likes and subscribes trends for us this week in a meeting. You guys are kicking plenty of butt with that. Please keep it up. It really, really does work. Yes. Hello to our Vintage King family from Nashville to LA to Detroit, the Motor City. You know we think you're the best. We love you guys. Thanks. Oh, by the way, thanks for taking care of DJ Ali from Kendrick Lamar and Schoolboy Q fame this week. Smoking customer service. That's part of Vintage King's magic. Is they don't discriminate between who you are and your credits. Everybody gets the same service. Fabulous. So, as we alluded to earlier, Dave and I and a group of people met at the Fairmont Hotel this week. What a gorgeous place to have the awards. We got our first chance to see it. Will was there and some other folks. So, here's what we want you to do. The cause is coming together. The team is complete. Will get to you shortly with some of the information and having to do with Google Hangs and the other stuff that you're expecting. You know the watering hole is fundanything.com/Pensado, so go there to ask your questions. All these details and firm dates are coming out probably in the next 5 days or so. The excitement is like really crazy, and to see the place.
That's just my house, it's crazy.
That's exactly right. To see the place made it truly spectacular. So I think stay tuned. Make sure you go to fundanything.com/Pensado. We'll give you updates each week. How you feeling, man? It's becoming a reality, huh?
Yeah, you know, it's. I keep saying this, but you guys have blessed us with so many opportunities, and my man to my left is dedicated and committed to bringing you great return on your investment in us, and I think this is the pinnacle of that.
Yeah.
What we're about to do, with your help and your participation. It's pretty big, Herb.
It is, and it is fueled by them.
Well, it's for them.
Yeah, the thing you guys should know is that the number of professionals who are making compromises in their decisions to be with us to try to pull this off at a level they think you deserve is truly amazing to us. So if they're going to make those commitments, we're going to make those commitments. So it's exciting. It is the cause. We're going to bring this audio world together. We're going to have some fun. As I told the Pensado students, yes, we're going to have some fun, and yes, we're going to recognize some people, but this is a celebration. Get here and party and meet some of your friends and hang out.
We're right across from the ocean.
Right across from the ocean.
Maybe a little drunken skinny dippings in
order
after
party.
Midnight.
Yeah, we expect that. We're hiring people to do that.
Yeah.
So Pensado Awards coming at you, fundanything.com, June 28th, Fairmont Hotel in Santa Monica. Once again, June 28th, Fairmont Hotel in Santa Monica. We will put together a list of hotels and various prices and so on and so forth to fit your budget if you're able to come. It's going to be a show, baby. Looking forward to it.
Can you sleep on the beach in Santa Monica?
You can.
That might be interesting.
Okay, cool.
And by the way, if you get sick, they got a great bathroom there. I could live in this bathroom.
So we thought of it all for you.
Yeah, as always.
We'll see you there, guys. Another thing I had a chance to do last week, which is really cool, I had breakfast with Karma Banstra. She's the director of the Blackbird Academy. She was in town. They're going to a bunch of studios here and up north. There are just super exciting plans coming out of that fabulous campus. What constantly amazes Dave and I is the opportunity for you to learn from the best. I mean, it's hard to go wrong when you're learning from the best practitioners, and that's the way that institution works. It is truly amazing. That works both on the live side and on the studio side. Mm-hmm. And John McBride has become so close with us that he shares some of his plans. I don't mean to tease you, but there's a discussion between two powerhouses, not us, and what's going to come out of that as a product line is insane, right? Right, Dave?
Nah, it's beyond insane. I mean, with you and John in the room, it's kind of electric. Add in this other pile of kerosene to the fire and light it, and oh my goodness, I can't wait to see what you guys come up with.
A little scary. So guys, bear with us. We promise to share with you first. I can't step outside of the lane till they give the okay, but it is major.
I think I can. I'll go ahead and tell them.
No, please don't. Please, because I have to clean it up. Also, by the way, on the Blackbird front, John told me there's still 5 seats available for the April class. If anyone out there is thinking about school or contemplating, look, do yourself a favor. Just get to the Blackbird Academy website in a hurry. Check it out. Talk to somebody over there. You just never know. What you don't want to do is let any limitations stop you from investigating the opportunity. You just never know what situation might work. 5 seats available. Move on it. We told John we would let folks know, and you know, who knows. And I hope you absolutely get in. It's a great place.
I got a question, Herb.
Sure.
The cost of admission to Blackbird and the cost of an hourly rate of studio time there, I'm guessing it's actually free to go to that school if you had to pay for the studio time.
Damn near.
So book some studio time and go to school free.
Yeah, exactly. Or the other way. Go to school free and then
book some studio time.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a bargain either way you look at it.
The studio, absolutely. We love those guys.
Yeah.
By the way, our boys at Recording Connection are kind of strutting their stuff lately.
Oh my gosh.
They had a big meeting with Hans Zimmer that apparently went very well.
Yeah. For those of you that don't know, you do know. Whether you know, or you don't know, you do know. And who's on first? But Hans Zimmer, man, every movie you like, his staff and himself, and with my buddy Alan Meyerson, they do a big chunk of the movies that I don't go to a lot of movies, but Herb's always telling me, the soundtrack, Hans Zimmer, Alan Meyerson, they killed it.
Cream of the crop, cream of the crop. So good for them. Apparently some of the NHL dudes up in Canada signed up for their course. The Recording Connection folks are really moving along with the concept of learning where you live. And as they continue to grow and perfect that, that's a good thing. We're proud of them, proud of how they're growing. Shout outs to Jimmy and Brian for a great job. I took a newbie step last week, and the Pensado students got me on a marathon Google Hang. We scheduled 1 hour.
Hang is the word there.
It turned into 6 hours. Everybody stayed. We imparted and shared a whole bunch of info, and to the students who then hit me afterwards, thank you for all the kind words. I must tell you, as inspired as you apparently were, I was just as inspired and took as much out of it. And I think from Dave and I's standpoint, let me just tell you guys this. If you're not a Pensado student, you should become one. If you are one, this is a bunch of very impressive folks who are passionate and care about the art and craft of audio. They self-regulate. They have a bunch of civilized folks in there. And we're going to be doing a lot more with them. We had some conversations about them last night with a sponsor.
I'm a professional lurker. I go there and lurk.
Do you?
Well, you know, I'm afraid sometimes if I jump in at the wrong time, the focus will be on me.
Sure.
And I want the focus to be on the students, you know. But I lurk a lot, and then I learn a lot too.
Well,
I get a lot of questions from there.
When the focus turns on you, bud, let me tell you, that heat is withering. I was cramped. I couldn't even get out when it was over. I just sat there.
Did you have your Depends?
I did. I did. I had them on.
You got that endorsement for me yet?
I did.
Okay,
I had to mute my audio periodically. So let me say this: much respect, Bill Kamek, Ma'at Hotep, Gordon Gidlock, and the indomitable road warrior F.L. Freeman. Yeah. You all killed this. To our young fan, our lovely young fan, whose parents introduced them to us. Check this out.
Man, I can't wait to get this circus going. This is going to be a fun show, right, Herman?
Absolutely, absolutely. It was good. It was good. You know, we got a lot going on. Now, how cool is that? That the only thing that will get this child to stop crying is hearing our music and then hearing our voices. I don't know if we're doing a good thing or bad. Roll it again, BP. Let's show our audience that one more time.
Man, I can't wait to get this circus going. This is going to be a fun show, right, Herman?
Absolutely, absolutely. It was good. It was good. So no matter what, we have at least one fan that we affect in a positive way for parents. Shout out to you guys. That was adorable. We just wanted to show it. Let's get on to the show. We got a great ITL day. You want to introduce it?
Yeah. I'm going to show you a couple of things about bandwidth and vocals.
Let's roll it.
One of the last things among many that I learned and possibly mastered was how to use bandwidth on a parametric. Sometimes it's called Q and sometimes it's called bandwidth. Those are somewhat interchangeable in terms of the way that we talk about parametrics, but they're actually two different functions. Now, Q is short for quality factor. It's the ratio between the amount of frequencies that are involved and the center of that frequency. And I'm not going to go into math on this because, frankly, it's not really that important. But what I want to show you is how you can use bandwidth to get a vocal that exactly what you want, as opposed to using equalizers that have a fixed frequency or a fixed bandwidth, like, say, maybe a graphic EQ. That you get to select the frequency and the gain, but you can't select the amount of frequencies on either side of that center frequency. So that's a fixed frequency EQ. Parametrics are relatively recent and very useful tools, but like everything that gives you a little more control, you can get in trouble real quick, and I did a lot of times. Let's take a look at a vocal. So guys, look, I've got this set up on a vocal. Juliano is the producer on this vocal, my friend from Brazil. Great vocal recording. I've got a little analyzer here for you to check out what's going on with a little more clearly, and then I'm going to show you on this Fab filter what bandwidth does and how I use it. So let's select this frequency. Let's check out what I've done.
When you're next to me, baby, when you're next, so I just...
Okay, now I'm pulling down some 10K. Let's solo the 10K. Okay, you saw it up here, it's hovering around 10K. Now, if we take the bandwidth and we narrow the amount of frequencies that we're dealing with, listen what it sounds like now. All of a sudden, it got brittle. Let's go back to somewhere where I had it. And let's make it a little wider than I had it. Include more frequencies.
Baby.
Now remember, we're pulling those frequencies out. So if you can look visually at the wider area, I'm pulling out some 20K and I'm pulling out all the way to almost 6K. Now, if I narrow that, I don't really want to pull those out. I'm only concerned with the 10K because that's kind of what's bothering me. So now I'm only going from about 6K to about, oh, it looks like a little higher, maybe audibly affecting something like 15K. So let me take this dip out. Okay, now you're not going to hear the dip.
When you're next to me, when you're next to me.
The S is just smoother, right? So you can see that it gives my vocal a little smoothness, but without the frequencies on the left side of this selected EQ being reduced. So I'm still getting the high end from these guys without the harshness from the 10K, and I'm using a smooth return here. I could actually get by with a little less.
When you're next to me, baby, when you're next, so I just wanna hold you tight, treat you right, and be by.
That's probably not bad. Let's solo it and see what it sounds like. It scares me. So let's go back to what we had a little bit. Now, on the low end, let's look at what we've going on. I'm using I'm selecting a high pass essentially. So let's check. This guy here is the purple dot is what's being affected. It's a high pass filter essentially. Now, I want a little bit less to the lower frequencies. I want less of those, but right around the cutoff, I'm missing something. So what I've done is I've added this guy at 160, and looks like I'm adding around 2 dB. Let's solo that and see what I'm doing. Now, you'll notice I've got a heck of a wide bandwidth here. Let's make the bandwidth a little narrower.
Just wanna hold you tight.
See, I'm not getting the effect of a rounder vocal on the bottom, so let's go back to what I had.
When you're next to me, baby, when you're next, so.
And let's take it out.
When you're next to me,
It's thin, right?
baby, when you're next, so I.
Okay, so on this case we're boosting, and it sounds better to affect the frequencies that are going all the way from about 40 or 50 to about, oh, looks like 1K. Now, if this scares us boosting in this range, which it could, we could drop another guy there, select it as a low cut, and extend, and cut this guy off too.
When you're next to me, baby, when you're next, so I just.
And then you'll notice that here at almost 2K, I've got a very wide sloping musical bandwidth. I didn't want to have a harsh thing here in the middle. Let's listen to that.
When you're next to me.
Now let's use a narrow bandwidth and see what happens.
When you're next to me, baby, when you're next.
You'd think with less frequencies it would sound smoother, but the opposite kind of happens. So.
When you're next to me.
Now, in the track, these are somewhat subtle, I'll agree.
When you're next to me.
I think we could use a little more of that.
When you're next to me.
Yeah. All right. I hope that kind of gave you a good idea of how bandwidth can be used on a vocal to make sure that you're accomplishing what you want to accomplish. Now, if we had repair work to do on this vocal, we would do the repair work with less frequencies involved or narrower bandwidths. I did repair work with another EQ on this particular song, and we'll go over that at another time. So that's how bandwidth can be thought of and used for vocals. the same exact principles apply to anything, not just vocals. All right, guys, next time.
Hey, a really cool thing has happened to us recently. We've developed some friends at Universal Music Publishing. They reached out to us about the show, and we've spent some time with them. And really, you know, this is from a manager's perspective, and probably Dave, you as well. Love what they want to achieve on behalf of their songwriters and producers and artists. Not often do you see companies that size looking at every option to further opportunities for their constituency. So for any of you guys looking at publishing deals, that's a very good sign from a very good publisher. So one of the things they wanted to do was exploit some opportunities for those guys. So they helped bring us this week's guest. And I got to tell you, I got my first call from Dave talking about how much he liked him philosophically, and they come from the same place. He's currently riding high with the Monster hit from Rihanna, with Monster from Rihanna. He's got a bunch more on his way. We truly enjoyed him. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Frequency.
Thank you so much for having me. This is quite an honor, I must say.
You're looking pretty sharp there, Brian. Monster, Eminem featuring Rihanna. It's a Monster. What a great, great song.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You know what might be instructive for our audience is to understand that sometimes getting to produce and write a song like that is not just a real linear, quick path. Can you kind of break down how that came to be? I know it's a pretty interesting story.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. It's probably one of the most organic things that I've ever done, and I think that that's where the best stuff usually comes from. When you're not really trying for anything, you're just like, hey, let's just write a great song and see what happens. And that's pretty much how that whole thing happened. It was me, another producer I was working with named Alias, and then two songwriters. One, this guy John Bellion, and this other writer, BB Rexa, who's also an artist. And basically, we were writing for her. And she's a pop artist, singer, and we were working on her project for a couple of weeks, just doing songs, playing with ideas and stuff like that. And we kind of came up with the genesis of Monster in this 4 or 5 hour session. And the original track was really just a vocal, piano, and some drum sounds, but it was like super bare bones, very, very skeleton. And that's how I usually like to work, try to just start off with the basic elements of a song, and if that's amazing, then all the dressing around you'll just take it to the next level. So we kind of started out doing that, and it was a full song, verses, chorus, bridge, everything. And just so happened a week later, an A&R from Shady Records, Riggs Morales, who I've known for a really long time since I started my career, he was up at the studio for a party. We were just kind of hanging out, having a couple of drinks. He asked me what I was working on. I said, hey, I'm working with this great new artist in BB. You want to come and listen? So it wasn't even a pitch to Eminem or anything. It was like the most organic, two guys hanging out listening to some music, and I played him the song, and he said, man, this would be really great for Eminem if you could make it more of a hip-hop track, because the original demo was a little bit more indie rock sounding. And that's just kind of how it started from there. And then I went in the process of reproducing. We already had her vocal, and all the lyrics and melody were already there, and it was just kind of producing around that little baby of a song to make it something that Eminem could rap to.
Man, that's cool. Did the original have the same drums? Because those drums sound...
No. So the original was actually kind of a 4 on the floor. It was kind of a 4 on the floor with like an acoustic guitar, so it was very kind of like Shakira. So it was 4 on the floor, but it wasn't EDM. It was kind of like a Shakira type thing. And so that was a real challenge to make into a hip-hop track, because it's pretty fast for a hip-hop track, especially for now, since a lot of the stuff is like 70 BPM, 72 BPM. That track is 112, I believe.
Wow.
So to do something in that BPM range that's not 4 on the floor, it was kind of a challenge for me to try to figure out, okay, how can I make this hip-hop but still fast but not sound like a dance record, you know? So it was like a very fine line. So I actually did 3 different versions before it got to the final version that they accepted. So I tried doing something with the 4 on the floor just to see if it might work. That didn't pass muster. And then there was something else that was kind of like a hybrid between what it is now and a 4 on the floor, and then what it is now. But each revision of the production borrowed things from each other. So the final version is really like an amalgamation of like these 3 different versions.
Were you trying to go for like a Motown thing on the drums? Because the drums kind of have that live but not live kind of sound to them.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted to kind of have like a rock feel, kind of. That's why there's like, you know, because the content is very dark and hard hitting. So I wanted to have like an aggression to it. But I also, you know, I love old drum sounds and drum samples and stuff like that. So I wanted to try to give it that feel, but also, you know, make it modern.
The chords in the hook are not really new, but the melody that you've got in there sounds really good against those chords. Did you come up with the melody first or the chords first for that hook?
No, the chords came first, and it's the same progression for the entire song. The original song had an additional chord, because the song as it stands now is 3 chords. The additional song was a 4-chord progression. The 4-chord came in couple different spots. So for the hip hop version, I said let's just simplify it. So yeah, the chords came first. I was working with this other producer, Alias, who's a great piano player. So we were kind of collaborating, going back and forth. And then BB and John, the 2 writers, just kind of freestyled the melodies over that. And kind of their process is to just kind of go into the booth and just freestyle melodies. And we had maybe, you know, we just playlisted about 8 or 9 tracks of just gibberish, and then would listen back to those playlist tracks. And really what we did was we kind of comped a gibberish melody out of the gibberish melodies. So so there's no words there. It's just, you know, fake, you know, it's like Susu Studio, like that type of thing.
That's so weird. I was about to bring up that Susu Studio because he couldn't. What was the little drummer's name? Phil Collins. He couldn't replace it with anything better, so he just kept it.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, and some of the lyrics, I can't remember any specific lyrics, but there are some lyrics from the gibberish that made their way into the final version. Just because, you know, I really feel like your first crack at what naturally sounds good to you, you know, shouldn't be overthought in some respects. Yeah,
I agree. But that little stop tape kind of sound in the middle of the verses, and then right before you go in the hook, was that Verify? How'd you do that?
That was actually M did that. I think there's some parts. There's a couple parts where he did some stops and edits and cuts and stuff like that he did to the 2-track. But actually, no, I know what you're talking about. That is Verify. That I did that. That's like, it's like the bass and everything kind of just like yeah. That's
cool.
Verify. Yeah.
Real good job on that. The tone that you chose for Rihanna and the hooks. The first time I heard that song, I asked myself, like, would I have done that? And I'm like, well, I don't know if I would have, but man, I should have, because it's so perfect. It's like, it's almost radio-y, you know, like there's no low end in it, but it gives it a feeling of power. Is that the rock part of the thing you were trying to capture?
Yeah, I mean, the song was actually mixed by Dr. Dre and Vito. So they kind of took what I did and then put their own spin onto it. And I think the vocals on the chorus are a little bit lower than they probably normally would be in a typical pop mix, I feel. But I think because it's kind of more mixed like a rock record, they kind of lay back a little bit. They're not as on top. Yeah. And I think that just kind of helps add to the vibe, because you're already getting the chorus and the intro where you really know what she's saying, and then the melody just kind of carries it on the chorus.
That I think it's in the second verse, that screw vocal. How'd you do that, and who did it?
He did that, actually. That was probably him and Mike Strange did that when they cut the vocals.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm assuming they probably did a combination of Melodyne and auto-tuned form shifting and all that stuff. But yeah.
You know, I got one more question about that song before we move on. The little backgrounds in the hook, they're kind of like, I don't know, classic background parts. How did you EQ those, and what are the effects on those? They sit so perfectly behind Rihanna, but you can still hear them, you know?
The vocals?
The little background parts behind Rihanna.
Okay, well, those are actually BB, who originally wrote the song. So Rihanna is the lead, and then all those other background parts, I think for the most part, are her. And those were on the original demo that we cut the first night that we did the song. I'm trying to remember exactly when I sent it to him. I printed them wet. I just printed them as a 2-track. Probably, I I use a lot of the guitar rig spring reverb.
Really?
For background vocals.
It
So
works.
I know I use that on that, and I'll kind of sometimes I'll do it as an insert on that vocal bus and just blend the wet dry, but I think on that I probably did it as a send, and then distorted the reverb a little bit, and then maybe just EQ'd out some of that mud, so it just sounds like really far back and just kind of ambient.
What did you distort the reverb with?
The soft tube saturation knob. I love that thing. I use that thing all the time.
Yeah, soft tube. I love their stuff. Will you run the reverb mono or stereo?
Probably stereo. When on guitar rig, you can unlink the left and the right channels. So I'll load up one of their spring reverbs on one side and one of their spring reverbs on the other side, and so kind of make my own stereo spring reverb out of that.
Man, I love Mr. Wives, the little indie group that you're working on. Well, they're not little anymore. They're going to be huge. I mean, that's going to be a big project. What's the girl's name in there? I love her voice.
Mandy Lee.
What a great project. Can you, you and I were talking yesterday, and I'm pretty sure it was yesterday, wasn't it? But we were talking about the indie rock world as opposed to the hip hop world, and how one seems to be just thriving on coming up with new stuff, and the other seems to be content with where they're at. Can you expand on your concept and your philosophy on that without getting us both shot?
Oh man, that might be hard to do. It's a fine line to tread. But I think you're right in the sense that a lot of these indie rock bands are pushing boundaries, and they just have a different perspective on music. I mean, they've all heard the same stuff that we have, but I don't think that their goal is necessarily to make something different, but they're not afraid to make something different. I think that that's what it is. Whereas some hip hop acts, or either producers or rappers, are just they're trying to not offend anybody, not lyrically, but you know what I mean, sonically, and how you're approaching the format. It's kind of like you're trying to fit into this box that's already been made. Whereas a lot of these other bands, or even solo artists, you can even put Lord in that category, where they're just doing what they do, and they're not afraid to do something different. And that's what I really like about a lot of these bands, because they have a different perspective on music, and it opens my mind to be like, oh, I never would have thought to do this chord here, or I never would have thought to do this arrangement, or on that Mr. Wives song, just sonically, and the way she has that I never would have thought to do that, and they just have great ideas, and they're not afraid to do something different. And just because it sounds different, that doesn't mean that it's wrong.
Frequency, I noticed when looking at your history, and you're touching on what I wanted to ask you about. I find that the trailblazers, mostly who are making music today, tend to have various influences from other places. They step over the boundaries, and they're curious, and they investigate. You seem to have followed that path getting here, and is that something you sort of stick to in terms of where you're going?
Yeah, I mean, all music is built on what came before. Mozart was built on something. Everybody was built on something. So I love all music. I grew up, my dad playing Earth, Wind & Fire and James Brown, and my mom listened to all the Motown stuff. So I grew up listening to all that stuff, and then, that informed the hip-hop when sampling was really big, and that's kind of how I got started. So my foundation is really old music into, oh, hey, they sampled these songs for all these hip-hop songs that I love as a kid, into how can I make my own samples, so to say, and now creating my own music. But I'm always listening to old stuff, and now also new stuff, and stuff that I wouldn't typically listen to 5 years ago, just because it opens up my brain into like, oh my God, there's all these other types of music. It's not just what you hear on the radio, And I think things like Spotify, you can say what you want about how they're paying artists, but for someone who's just trying to jump into a rabbit hole of a million different kinds of music from all over the world, it's a great thing.
Well, Dave, one of the things we have been talking about more and more recently, which I think he's also talking about, is it's sort of exciting where we are musically now. Well,
I think the best music ever made is being made now.
Yeah, there's a re-energized musical spirit, and wherever you find it, and some of it is getting through to the mainstream, even though that's not the goal. It's that it's interesting, and so people find it. So, you know, frequency, don't stop what you're doing. The weight of the music business is on your shoulders. I just want you to know.
Just a footnote, the worst music that's ever been made is being made now,
as well.
You know, but the price of admission is so affordable now, you know, that like the gatekeepers that created these $1 million facilities only the privileged few could get into, those days are gone.
Over.
You know? I mean, now you can work at Home Depot 6 months, save up enough money, and you're using what frequency and I are using. Hey, Brian, I think I actually paid for and bought Now and Then, the understudies.
Oh, God.
Was that the first thing you ever did?
That's the first thing I ever did.
No joke.
Yeah. It's actually, the 12-inch is actually still in my mom's dining room above a whole bunch of other stuff.
That's great.
I keep telling her to take it down, and she's like, no.
No way.
I tried to find my 12-inch, but it's in storage somewhere. I was going to kind of start the show off, kind of catch you off guard. Hey, man, tell me about 2006. Was there ever a better year for a human being in music than 2006 for you?
Well, not for me. I mean, that's when I got my first placement with Snoop Dogg. And I was working my day job at the time at a consulting firm and doing PowerPoint presentations and suit and tie and all that, making music at night and not sleeping at all. And you know, getting the call that, you know, Snoop had recorded to one of my songs was just kind of the beginning of it all.
Yeah, Think About It, that was a great Snoop song. But also you did Cameron that year. You won a Cyan, like, greatest hip-hop producer.
Yeah, it was a,
Legend of the Beats or something like that?
Yeah, it was a Battle of the Beats. Yeah. The funny thing about that, and I joked with some people, is that the day that I won, the guy that, you know who the guy that I won against was?
Who?
Benny Blanco.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean?
Wow.
And so, yeah, that was kind of funny that happened. I saw him a couple months ago and brought that up, and it's just funny.
Yeah, I'm sure you did.
And, you know, how you know, your paths cross, and then, you know, things happen, and, you know, people, if you work hard, everyone gets to the same point eventually.
Oh, cool. So, are you still DJing? Is that still part of it?
No, I've kind of hung that up for now. I did it for a long time. I was DJing for Slaughterhouse on the road. Yeah. I was doing shows, clubs and stuff like that. But I really decided that, as fun as that is, that I've always wanted to be a producer. That's always why I got into it, and that's always why I started DJing, is because I had all these records. Someone has to listen to them. So yeah, I've kind of hung that up for now, just kind of focusing on producing. But
when you were doing it, did it inform you in ways that you can only get from actually going out and having that experience? Oh yeah, of course. I mean, just seeing how people react to, you know, to music that you're playing, and especially being able to travel the world and go to different places and see types of music that affect people there differently than they affected here. Yeah. I think that that's really important, because, you know, sometimes we get focused on what's happening in the U.S., but there's stuff happening. There's a whole world outside, and there's people everywhere, and they all have different tastes, and they all listen to different things. And so, yeah, just going to Norway or to Spain or whatever, and seeing what they're just playing at the club, at the bar, and being like, I never would have heard that in the States, and everyone loves it over there. So it's definitely eye-opening. Yeah.
The Blue Carpet Treatment album by Snoop is one of my favorites he's done recently. Oh, yeah. You mentioned Think About It. On Think About It, which is my favorite song on that record, second favorite song on that record, is it a loop? Is it live drums? What's going on there? I can't. It's a sample layered with drums, but it's not necessarily a loop, because the sample there's a bunch of different sections that were taken from the same song but rearranged for his version. So it's kind of like a rearranged sample in a sense, and then there's drums underneath that. Gotcha. The funny thing about that song is that that beat I had actually done. Probably, if the song came out in 2006, I had done that beat in 2003 or 2004 when I was still in college making beats. So that was actually done on an MPC. I don't use an MPC anymore, but at the time, that was done on the MPC. And I don't think it's one of the first, but it's one of the first times I really paid attention to taking a rapper who's rapping, but giving it a note value, especially the the little notes and the little background parts and the ad-libby parts, did you use like an auto-tune on that or something to give them kind of a note value?
On his vocals?
On the ad-libs particularly.
Oh no, that was all Snoop. That's how they came from his session. So I don't even know. I would assume that there's no effects on there, and that's just Snoop being Snoop.
Wow. Tell me about FNA. Are you still doing that?
No, that was a project I did a long time ago. When I was kind of working on some EDM stuff, and I still do some stuff like that. But I've kind of really found my niche in this pop, hip hop, rock vein.
So what's the future hold? What are you working on now?
Well, that band Mr. Wives, going to be working on some more stuff with them. Got a couple things in the works. Some big name pop superstar divas that I can't really mention right now, but some big songs that way. I got an artist named Iffy that I'm working with. He's a singer from Harlem. Trying to develop him and just doing a lot more band stuff actually. Oh,
cool! Very cool. You know, as Dave prepares for Batter's Box, Daniel Rojas out of your LA office is here grinning while you spit off all those projects. His job seems more secure. So keep rocking that way. DP, you ready to throw some pitches at our man Frequency?
Yeah, absolutely.
Frequency, you ready? You warmed up? You need some stretching time or anything? Some liniment?
Okay.
All right, good stretch. DP, fire away.
808s.
808s.
Yeah.
L1.
Limiter. Ooh. Good one. Snare.
Transient Designer, SPL.
Lead vocals.
Oh, man. The Sound Toys Radiator.
Ooh.
Just a little bit. It has the mix knob. Just a little 20%.
Uh-oh, look at him. He's giving numbers. The man is going for it.
It's very New York.
I'm going to clean his clock anyway. Synthesizers.
The UVI workstation stuff. The Vintage Legends. They got some great synths.
Cool. Stereo bus.
The Slate VCC into the VTM, and I've been experimenting with the compressors, but it's sometimes yes, sometimes no, but definitely those two.
Reverb.
The Valhalla reverbs, I think, are just incredible, especially the new one, the Vintage Verb. I mean, they're cheap, affordable, and great sounds.
They make a good delay too, but delay.
H delay.
Oh, waves. Horns. Got to throw something in there, Herm.
Horns. Always, for me, I'm always doing some type of distortion saturation if I'm doing live horns, and if I'm doing program stuff, I'm just making it a little bit crunchier because sometimes they're too clean.
Favorite plug-in under $100, and you can't say Valhalla.
Oh man, that was gonna be my go-to. I actually sometimes I use on the Satson stereo bus thing. It's kind of like a VCC, but I think it's like $39. Maybe it's $50 now. But sometimes I'll use that into the VCC, and it's got an interesting stereo thing that it does, little 3D thing, a little bit of a slight compression I hear. But yeah, for what it is, it's pretty good.
Man, I give up.
You know what's interesting? It's sort of a sneaky bat speed. You get a little bit lured, and the ball's coming right back at you, and you kind of have to duck.
I thought the horns would catch him off guard.
No, you threw
it. And after the Valhalla, that's when I made up the $100 question, because I knew he'd get trapped into thinking, why did the bastard ask me that earlier?
See, he just got us. But that's okay. We needed some. We hadn't had a New York visitor for a minute.
Have I ever won a batter's box?
You have, but we've been polite and not pointed out to who it was.
Just checking.
Great job, Frequency. Let's introduce our man in corner office. Chongor is over there with a few questions. Chongor, you got some questions for our guy, Frequency?
Yeah, we got some good ones.
Good.
This first one's from John Davis. At what point in your career did you decide a publishing deal would be good for you?
That's a really good question. I think that a lot of producers struggle with. I did my deal when I did a B.O.B. song called Chandelier on 2 albums ago. At that point, it just made sense, and I felt like, obviously the advance is great, but just the ability. I think you have to be ready, talent-wise, to take where that's going to take you. So when I sign with Universal and they start setting me up with sessions, I got to know that I'm ready for that level of play. So I think signing a publishing deal is a big choice, but I think if you're getting a good offer and you feel like you're ready to take that next step, then go for it.
Can I ask a B part?
Sure.
You mentioned that you wanted to make sure you were ready to deal with artists that the publishing company was going to throw your way.
Right.
That's very astute. Can you expand on that and the importance of that a little bit?
Well, I think it's kind of the age-old thing. Sometimes, if you have success very early on and you're not prepared for it, then you might as well not have it at all because you're not going to be able to go the distance. So I think, at least for me, when the way my career's gone, is everything has led me up to where right now I know my talent is at a level that I can do anything. Whereas maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I knew there were certain things that I wasn't proficient at. So I think you need to know and be confident in yourself, because if you're confident in your talents, then that's shown to everyone else, and you're ready to take it on. So I think you gotta know what you're up against, and if you can play in that arena, then you're ready.
And let me add to that a little bit as a manager. You don't really understand the scale of these companies and the resources that are available to you, from your licensing for film and television, sync stuff, international, the kind of relationships, collections, admin. There's a lot going on that you need to either you or your team know how to manage those relationships. And people who manage those relationships well often do better for their artists because they know how to move in and about. Chongor, give us another one.
From Marius Byrne, are there any specific plugins or outboard gear that help you emphasize the lead instruments or vocals in a mix?
Most of the stuff that I'm doing is programmed. So, I may record a guitar here or there and obviously vocals. But probably EQ, and I use a lot of the Waves SSL emulation, because I think it's just really easy to dial in something. And also the DMG Equilibrium is a great EQ to just kind of poke things out a little bit.
Wow.
Can
I toss one in?
Sure, of course.
A little plug for my friend Steve Duda. He made an emulation of one of the limiters in Ableton, and he calls his OTT. I think his website's X-Fur Records. Steve Duda, and man, that thing brings synthesizers just right to the front of the mix. Really great. I think it might be free. If it's not, it's very affordable.
Chongor, one more.
Darren James, what is your philosophy on compression, and are there any elements in a mix that you usually leave uncompressed?
The answer is always that it depends. I'm not usually thinking about it from a technical point of view of, is the ratio right, is the attack right, is the release right? I'm really just twisting knobs till it sounds good to me. You know what I mean? Or twisting the mouse. It's, sometimes a really high ratio and slamming it is the way to go. So I don't really take any hard lines on this should be compressed, this shouldn't be. If it's gain reducing by more than 5 or 6 dB, that's too much. I just kind of go with my ears. I'm always compressing drums. I'm always compressing lead vocal and bass. Then everything else sometimes just is fine.
Man, Frequency, before we wrap up, which has been just this time has just zoomed by, which is always a good sign. Hopefully sometime toward the end of June, leave a date open. We're having this Pensado Awards. I don't know what you know about it, or actually, if you do, what you think about it.
Yeah, it sounds great. And hopefully you guys will invite me, and I will be there to party it up with all the winners.
Well, we would love to have you. It's going to be the community coming together all over the globe, and your presence would be greatly welcome. Thank you for turning around on such quick notice and sharing with us. Your team, by the way, was extraordinary in pulling this off. We're going to be coming back to New York to do some things, if you're out here, so we're going to bang on your door and utilize you some more. Is that all right?
Oh, yeah. Come out to New York. It's nice and snowy. There's a little bit of negativity in the air, and I think that's always good for creativity.
Absolutely. As a Canadian familiar with snow, I'm not afraid of that, for sure.
What's snow?
Exactly. DP, take us home, bud.
Whew, man, that was so much fun talking to Brian. His influences are very similar to mine, and I really love his work. I did a little research on it. Run and grab that Mr. Wives thing. He says it different. I think he says Mr. Wives. I think I say Mr. Wives. But grab Reflections is the EP. A lot to be learned there. We'll see you next week.